Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Digital Front Door. I'm your host, Scott Benedict, and I'm excited about our topic today because it's one of the key fundamentals for success, whether you are a retailer or a consumer brand in the world of digital and omni-channel retailing. And what we're going to talk about today and really focus on is the role that the product detail page plays, whether that's on a website or in a mobile app, in driving sales for a retailer or for a brand, whether it's going to end up happening online or the purchase ends up happening in physical stores. And so what I thought I'd do is bring in a subject matter expert on this topic. My good friend Ryan Monigan from Flywheel Digital joins us today. Ryan, welcome. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Scott. It's a pleasure to see you.
You bet. So why don't you start, because I know you've been on with Andy Wilson before, but for folks in the audience maybe who have not seen you before, don't know who Flywheel Digital is, can you start with maybe a little bit of an introduction about you and about the company that you work with?
Absolutely. So I lead our client services team for Walmart, which is a team of search and conversion experts that help brands grow their digital penetration and ultimately overall sales, which is an interesting topic that we'll get in today and how those two things relate and where the incrementality comes from. But yeah, Flywheel Digital is a retail company that happens to buy a lot of retail media, and we are helping brands go along that journey from just thinking of digital as a space where you buy ads to an omni-channel experience that drives conversion both in-store and online.
Awesome. Well, so I mentioned in the introduction that we want to focus the conversation on the product detail page, and that feels like that may not be the most exciting or the sexiest element of digital retail, but it is kind of foundational, at least it is in my mind.
Sure.
What are your thoughts in terms of what is the evolving role of the product detail page and kind of the work it does in helping to drive a sale online?
Yeah, I mean, it's what creates the search grid, which is essentially the digital modular or the digital manifestation of a modular and an assortment that in Walmart's case, an in-store buyer curates. Right. So when you search paper towels, all that you see is the hero images of those items. And that's maybe why the detail page itself isn't as sexy to people, because you got to click on one of those hero images to get to the information. But it is sexy when you realize it drives conversion. A lot of purchases do happen from the search grid. If you're buying canned peas, right, you don't need a ton of information. But if you're buying wireless headphones, you need a lot of information, right? So regardless of what category it is or how many people actually visit the PDP from the search grid, those consumers are the ones that need incremental information to feel good about putting that item in their basket. So that is your incrementality. And if a shopper goes to that page with a question that they cannot find the answer to, that is the fastest way to lose conversion online.
That makes sense. It feels like one of the things that perspectives are evolving on is that the product detail page doesn't ultimately always drive an online purchase. In an omni-channel retailer like Walmart and Sam's Club, in many cases, it may be a research vehicle for an in-store purchase. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, think about your shopping behavior. If you're looking for headphones or a new bicycle or something like that, how many retailer sites do you visit and how many carts do you load up that ultimately you end up abandoning, right? So, and then in the case of omni-channel retailers, how many of those carts do get abandoned online, but then do drive that ultimate purchase in store? If you're shopping for an expensive purchase or a category that you're new to, you want to get all of that research done at home online, because the breadth of information available to you is wider than walking into a single retailer. Right. But ultimately, at least for me, I often like to go touch and feel that product before I buy it, especially if it's a high price point. So for something like a wireless pair of headphones at Walmart, I might load up that item into my cart on a couple different sites, but hopefully I do choose to convert on Walmart. And if I do so, I'm often walking into a Walmart store that has that item in stock, possibly on display, where I can interact with it physically. And I mean, you want to talk about conversion drivers. If you're walking into a store and putting headphones on your head, there's a decent chance that you're going to buy them.
Right. And it feels like also the product detail page plays a marketing role as well as a merchandising or a purchase role, that a lot of marketing activity that happens online points somewhere, and it kind of is to that page, is it not?
Absolutely. It happens in a number of ways. One, if you're driving off-site traffic to a PDP, that's the landing page for that DSP ad or off-site display ad. Marketers always want to tell a unified, consistent story for their brand. So the PDP becomes an opportunity, another touch point to enhance that consistent message or to continue to tell that consistent message. Right. And then you think about, we're going to talk about below the fold and rich media and enhanced content. Strictly in the digital world, if you navigate to a brand's page and you don't want that size or color or that model of headphones, to continue with the example, you can link other products in your brand to that page to ensure that if the consumer doesn't want to buy that one, you keep them in your brand.
Right. You keep them in the ecosystem of products or brands or the category that they're in. Hopefully you still have an opportunity to win the sale from them, right?
But yes, from a retailer standpoint, it's really important to keep them in the category and just ultimately drive conversion. And that's where that marketing message can be told, whether it's from the brand or from the retailer.
Yeah, it feels like one of the challenges of digital versus physical retail is if you have a consumer in your physical store, their likelihood of walking out and going to another store, it's a little bit harder for them than to switch if they're in a digital experience. They could go from either one product to another or one retailer to another pretty fast, right?
You don't have to get in your car and drive to another retailer. You just switch tabs in your browser, right? So yeah, the opportunity is greater, but the risk is greater too. Yes. And that's why you see both brands and retailers really putting time, energy, effort, and money into curating these experiences, these pages, because that risk of walking or not converting or channel blurring or just spreading your share of wallet a little bit broader is easier online than it is when you have to physically put yourself in the store to spend your wallet.
That makes sense. So when you hit a product detail page, again, whether it's on a website or in a mobile app, there's a couple of core elements in my mind of the product detail page. And kind of in your mind, what are the most important, most critical elements of a product detail page?
To the shopper, it's clearly the hero image, right? That's your one touch point. That's your facing on the modular from the search grid. Of course, the title can be used to convey conversion driving information to the consumer, but it can also optimize your product for organic search. So the text that you include on the page is really, really important to that algorithm. Right. And the algorithm obviously influences the shopper journey very heavily. Then the buy box. Who is actually fulfilling this item? That's a critical piece of information that obviously as an industry person that spends most of their days thinking about this is really, really important to me and to our clients. That might be a hidden detractor from either purchases or satisfaction of that purchase, which then could obviously influence future purchases. Right. But paying attention, that's a maybe pro tip to our listeners today. If you're shopping on Walmart, you want that item to be sold and shipped by Walmart.com or obviously a reputable seller, which is often indicated by that pro seller badge.
That makes sense.
The price point, right? Pricing still is at the sole discretion of the retailer, but marketplaces, the expansion of online marketplaces, whether it's at Walmart or purely or digital retailers that are purely marketplace, the pricing is dynamic. And so as we're looking down the PDP, that's obviously an element that is evident to the shopper, but there's just so many more things that go into or inputs that go into pricing these days when it's so easy to change prices in a digital world. And then obviously everything below the fold, right? You can do eye tracking studies. You can measure this empirically. Consumers interact with different pieces of the page differently. And not a ton of consumers go below the fold. But again, the ones that do are both your risk and your opportunity. Right. Once you get them there, they are clearly interested in buying your product. Right. If you give them the right information, you can significantly increase their chances of converting. And if you don't curate that message properly and completely, then you actually detract from your ability to convert that shopper.
And you may send them off to look at another product, right?
Very well could do that.
Yeah. So one of the other elements that I get asked a lot about, and I hear a lot of questions about, is rich media, or I think in the Amazon universe, enhanced content may be the term that's used. Those are kind of interchangeable. But what is rich media? What defines rich media, and why is it important to a brand, to a retailer in driving a purchase?
I would define rich media as something on the page other than static images and written text. So that can be the form of videos. That can be in the form of PDF files that tell you how to assemble the lawnmower that you just bought that's going to show up in a box on your front door. It can be tutorials. It can be recipes. It can be influencer content from a increasingly trusted source these days that can be aspirational in addition just to being educational. There's probably 2 or 3 other things that I could add to that list that I'm either forgetting now or simply haven't been invented yet, right? So I think what the audience should take away from this is rich media is anything other than images and text, right? So what you as the brand, you as the expert in that space, in that category, or in the expertise on that product specifically, what do you want to tell the shopper and push the limits of what is available today, both in terms of what the assets that your brand is curating, as well as what the retailers that you're partnering with to drive sales will allow on the page. Of course, the sky's the limit digitally, right? We need to work in the relative confines of what's possible, but think outside the box, and that's a great place to drive thought leadership, both for brands and retailers.
You know, and keeping on that theme, it feels like the place where rich media initially made the most sense is in more complex product, a high ticket item, but even things as basic as your weekly shopping trip, fundamental food and beverage,
absolutely.
CPG items still occasionally need a story told either about the ingredients that are in it or how it can be used, that sort of thing. So are you seeing rich media used more broadly across different categories? It's not just something that maybe big ticket items utilize?
Yeah, it should be used. I think recipes are obviously, you mentioned the food and beverage space, a great way or a great application of rich media. For all of our shopper marketing friends out there, I'm not an expert there, but that whole discipline is focused not on really creating intent to buy, but consumption post-purchase. So however that manifests itself in your category, partner with your shopper marketers to understand what drives consumption, and then obviously repeat purchase and attach that to the PDP as well.
That makes sense. So you mentioned organic search earlier, and I think it feels like so much focus is done today, particularly among digital marketers, on paid search, but organic search really feels like it's more foundational or fundamental to success. Really talk about the importance of that and what are the indicators of success in organic search?
Everything we just talked about, the elements of the PDP are there to drive conversion, turn a click into a sale. That is the role of the organic algorithm. It's not to favor the highest price point or the highest margin or the favorite brand of the merchant that's curating that assortment. It is a digital category advisor. It's a robot. It doesn't think, it simply executes the inputs of the people programming the algorithm. And of course, at Walmart, I know this to be true. And I suspect that every good organic algorithm on any retailer website, its main intent is to turn clicks into conversions at the fastest rate possible. Getting more clicks is a separate discipline, but the algorithm measures the most popular products, and generally that's based on that conversion rate metric.
Is there a connection between success in paid media and success in organic search? In other words, do you have to be good at one to be good at the other if you're a brand?
I think you should be good at both. Yes. You can be good at one and not the other, and quite frankly, pay the price for it. So let's kind of dive into each of those. If you are solely focused on your organic optimization, your organic position, you are essentially eschewing the promotion element of retailing. Everybody wants to sell a higher velocity or sell more than they do today. Sponsored product, sponsored search, or retail media in general is the way to meaningfully change the velocity of your items by showing them to more shoppers. But that's really the intersection of organic and paid search there, is because if you are misappropriating your promotion strategy, in this case, your paid search strategy, you can show your item to a lot more shoppers. But if you do it wrong and you degrade that conversion percentage, you are actually therefore degrading your organic rank. The relationship between your current organic rank and your ability to access higher paid spots, or the price it costs to access those, are absolutely directly correlated. The higher up you are in the search grid, the less spots that you're jumping, the higher your expected click-through rate, and therefore the less expensive it becomes for your item to go from spot 10 to spot 1. It's also less incremental, right? We all want to maximize the head of our portfolio, but then also at the same time increase the position of our torso and tail. And so understanding where you are organically really should be the first step in defining your paid search strategy.
Gotcha.
And then measuring the interaction of those two will allow you to edit that and perfect it in the future.
That makes sense. So a lot of conversation I hear talks about search terms broadly. Can you define kind of for the audience what is search terms? And there's different types of search terms. Just at a high level, what is that? Why is it important?
A search term is any combination of words a human decides to type in that search box on whatever retailer they're on. So search terms are infinite. Of course, we as an agency and manufacturers should focus on the most important ones. But what are they, right? If you're shopping for paper towels or eggs, you pretty much know what is the most, how most people shop for those. An example I like to use is in the sauce category, right? I might call it pasta sauce. You might call it marinara sauce. Somebody else might call it tomato sauce. Understanding which on the platform that you're trying to sell on, which is the most popular, is really the first step. You alluded to different types of search terms. We segment them into branded and non-branded. Non-branded is that category term. It's paper towels or eggs.
More of a generic term.
Yes, exactly, generic. Anything with any term with a brand name in it obviously is branded search. Well, what does that matter to marketers or advertisers? When somebody is declaring their intent to purchase your brand, they do so by searching for your brand. If you don't convert them, it's probably a PDP problem or a pricing or a pack type problem. So that's why we as organic search experts, as well as advertisers, focus on those non-branded terms. That is the opportunity for you to steal clicks and sales and share from your competition, because the consumer is saying, show me all of the brands from this category and let me choose. And that's why both your organic and paid placements in those terms is where your incrementality lies.
And if you are a brand, say you're a shopper marketer, and you know what terms consumers generally are searching for in your category or your product, are those always the same from one retailer to the next, or do they vary from one retailer to the next?
They vary from one retailer to the next 100%.
Okay.
Why is a great question that I don't have an answer to. I don't know why more people search for pasta sauce on Kroger than they do on Walmart, and why marinara sauce is the number one term on. Obviously regional differences and dialects and preferences play a difference there for regional retailers.
Right.
Obviously, Walmart is not a regional retailer. They're quite ubiquitous at this point. So Walmart, I always say, is a great cross section of America, and you can learn a lot from that. You know shopper behavior.
Right.
Of course, most important is to understand what's happening in the present, but understanding the past and trying to predict the future from those trends. Why did it marinara sauce become number one when it was number 3 a year ago? Gosh, we'd have to get deep into the brains of Americans to really understand that, but it's fascinating.
But it feels like if you have it figured out today, don't rest on your laurels, because to your point, what the term is that people are searching for in a particular category could evolve over time, right?
Absolutely. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, cauliflower pizza crust wasn't a thing. It is very much a thing now, but it wasn't a while ago. So yeah, that's some of that shopper behavior that I mentioned. You can kind of think along with, right? What is that new and emerging trend that just popped up on your search frequency term list today that is very, very low today, but you need to pay attention to that, because if the consumer likes it and wants it and is searching for it, you as a manufacturer or a brand need to understand that. Right. If you're the one driving that trend, congratulations. Now it's time to invest in it. If you're not, you're behind, and you really should influence your innovation strategy there.
feels like you always need to be a student of search terms, no matter what your role is, just to make sure that you understand what the consumer is searching for and what's most relevant in whatever category you happen to be operating in, right?
Absolutely. Same for branded terms too, right? If in a category, if you are the dominant share leader and the consumer is searching for competitive brands more often than yours, you have a problem. You can't control that on site, but you can influence that off-site through either display ads online or just the way that you influence that unaided awareness of your brand. Again, just a treasure trove of insights there for marketers.
Makes sense. So there's a lot of talk about search algorithms and Walmart's search algorithms specifically. What should brands that work with Walmart and Sam's Club, what should they know about Walmart's search algorithms and how to kind of master success if they know and understand how Walmart's search works versus Amazon's or other retailers?
That's a great question. We talked a lot about the PDP today and the shopper-facing elements, everything that the consumer interacts with.
Right.
That is only half the picture.
Right.
The other half, when we talk about algorithms, is the information that you feed it.
Right.
The algorithm doesn't know a coffee cup from a cell phone. You have to tell it that. It just sees a widget and an item number. So it starts by classifying it into a category, into a product type, and then a subcategory. That drives on-site taxonomy and navigation. But again, that's the shopper-facing element of it. The algorithm is a robot. It is only doing its job, and you can make it do its job better for your products if you feed it more information. So specifically at Walmart, a lot of this is measured through the content quality scores at the item level. But there are, as suppliers know, hundreds of attributes that are available to be filled out for every item. And that is an investment, both in time, in curation, in technology, in humans. But it's incredibly important. I know it's a pain in the butt, but the juice is absolutely worth the squeeze there. The more the algorithm understands about your item, the more confident it can be in suggesting or serving that item to the shopper. And again, what we're trying to do here is drive conversion. Conversion is aided through those shopper-facing elements, but you still need to drive traffic to the page. And that comes through organic search rank. And organic search rank is definitely influenced by the algorithm's confidence in the item. And that is influenced by the completeness of its attributes in its catalog.
So you can't sell somebody something on your item page if they never get there, if they never arrive on it, and search is absolutely critical, it feels like,
100%
to that success. So, we're early in 2024, and I think a lot of brands, as they think about their strategies for the year ahead, they're always wondering, well, what's the biggest drivers of success for our brand at Walmart and Sam's Club today? If you had a room full of suppliers asking you that question, what do you think are the biggest drivers of success as they head into this year?
Absolutely. It's threefold. It is building the foundation of an item through its catalog, through its shopper-facing content, through its attribute completeness, through its taxonomy, and all elements, all 100% controllable by the supplier elements of that item's digital life. The second is the organic strategy that you put behind it. Understanding where the shopper is, understanding what the retailer algorithm is needing, and blending those two, synthesizing those two into an organic strategy. There are some very sophisticated brands out there that know this better than I do. In general, I think most brands do not pay attention to this even to like an adequate level. If you don't know, share of voice is a relatively new metric, really, in the digital world. It used to refer to like your share of television GRPs. Share of voice now, to me, the way that we define it is what positions do you have on site, whether they're paid, whether they're organic, and it's multiplied by the value of those positions, right? So if you are position 1 in SPF 50 sunscreen, but position 100 in the term sunscreen, clearly those two terms are nuanced in different ways and have different volume associated with it. So you have to understand, 1, the position, but 2, the value of that digital shelf that you're playing on. And the third element of digital retailing, obviously, is that promotional strategy, primarily manifested in WMC or retail media spend. And that is through both the traffic that you're able to drive to the platform that obviously benefits the retailer in the category, both the display ads on site that can influence your unaided awareness or catch the eye of a shopper that may not have had your item on their shopping list this time. You can kind of get that category and hopefully your brand on the shopping list. And then the third is that sponsored search, paid media on the search grid. That is the ability, and this is really, suppliers should eat this up. If you're an in-store brick and mortar supplier, you only get to influence that modular once, maybe twice a year. Right. And if your item gets put in the upper right-hand corner, stuck behind a pole, you're kind of stuck there until the category advisors redraw that modular. Brands should eat this up because you get to influence that day in and day out. And it's a free market auction-based system. And anybody with a media budget can participate. And those with the most sophisticated strategy and tools and insights can dominate that space. So it's an incredible opportunity. I know most suppliers are aware of this and capitalizing on it to a certain extent, but as you can tell, I get pretty excited to help them along that journey, and I think we're pretty good at it.
Awesome. I'll bet as you interact with a lot of brands, what is the one thing that maybe you encounter? Maybe it's a frustration that you wish brands knew but don't, or that you're constantly having to either remind them or educate them about it.
That your in-store sales and share and success is not guaranteed online. We were talking about this before we started recording, that everybody is forced to organize their companies and their strategies and their funding and their personnel differently. And I know that most suppliers, especially at Walmart, come from a brick and mortar place, and that sometimes can lead their digital strategy. And in some cases, that's okay. They are generally the experts of the category, obviously the experts of their brand. But it's important to have a new perspective, a different perspective, sometimes a digitally native perspective in that strategy. And I'm not saying that one should dominate the other. The brands that I see it doing it the best are synthesizing, blending those strategies. And the ones that I see it doing the worst are quite frankly ignoring the digital side. Yeah.
And it feels like they do so at their peril, at least in 2024 and beyond, right?
Absolutely. The digital side is currently not the dominant share of your sales, but it is the dominant share of your growth and your incrementality. So, if you want to succeed in an omni-channel world, yes, you need to support the generally 85% of units that run through store, but you need to accelerate the velocity of those 15% of units that are transacted digitally, whether they're shipped to your home, delivered by an associate, or picked up by you at the store once you've transacted online.
Awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for not only joining us, but for sharing your insights and your wisdom with our audience. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. It was great to see you.
I really enjoyed it. I hope our audience really got a lot of great insights out of that, because this feels like these are all very fundamental elements of success, not only at Walmart and Sam's Club, but in retailing in general. And so, Ryan, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts with the team.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. That's our show for today. We hope you'll join us on the next episode of The Digital Front Door. I'm Scott Benedict. Thanks for joining us today.